Frank Sinatra's autopsy report reveals heartbreaking details. How did Frank Sinatra die? The legendary singer ended up dying from a heart attack on May 14, 1998 at 10:50 p.m. at the age of 82. Old Blue Eyes couldn't escape his health challenges that had followed him for years despite his larger-than-life persona. Doctors at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles confirmed that Sinatra had suffered acute myocardial infarction. Most people don't realize that Sinatra's death wasn't unexpected. His arteries had been clogged for a decade before his final days, and his health declined substantially over the last several years. He struggled with breathing problems, high blood pressure, pneumonia, bladder cancer, and dementia during this time. Let's get into what caused Frank Sinatra's death and the heartbreaking details his autopsy report revealed about his final moments. Autopsy reveals Frank Sinatra died of heart attack. Medical authorities confirmed Frank Sinatra's death after they got into his body at one of Los Angeles's premier medical facilities. The autopsy and medical records gave an explanation about the legendary singer's final hours. Death confirmed at Cedars-Sinai. Medical personnel at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center pronounced Frank Sinatra dead at precisely 10:50 p.m. that fateful night of May 14, 1998. Paramedics rushed the ailing icon to the emergency room after he suffered a major cardiac event at his Beverly Hills estate. The doctors couldn't save him despite their efforts. The staff notified Sinatra's wife, Barbara, who was dining with friends at a nearby restaurant. She rushed to the hospital and stayed by his side until the end. His publicist, Susan Reynolds, made the official announcement shortly afterward, following hospital protocols. His wife and family were there at the time he died, though his children didn't get immediate notification. The doctors reached out to his daughter Tina at 11:10 p.m., 20 minutes after pronouncing his death. This delay between his death and his children's notification became a source of family tension later. Doctor's official cause of death. Sinatra's physician of 5 years, Dr. Jeffrey Helfenstein, signed the death certificate with clinical precision that showed how events unfolded. The official medical record listed acute myocardial infarction, the clinical term for a heart attack, as the cause. The death certificate revealed a timeline nobody knew before Sinatra had the heart attack at his Beverly Hills home about 2 hours before he died. This documentation suggests he started experiencing symptoms around 8:50 p.m., though nobody knows exactly when someone called emergency services. The medical documents also showed something vital about Sinatra's health. Doctors had diagnosed him with clogged arteries 10 years before his death. They monitored this condition known as coronary artery disease, but it ended up causing his fatal heart attack. What was Frank Sinatra's cause of death? The medical explanation for Sinatra's death points to coronary artery disease that led to acute myocardial infarction. Health experts explain that coronary artery disease happens when plaque builds up in the heart's blood supply arteries. The heart muscle starves for oxygen and nutrients once these vessels become substantially narrowed or blocked. The heart muscle starts to die from oxygen deprivation when blood flow gets severely restricted or suddenly stops. Sinatra's medical reports describe exactly this scenario. His heart didn't get enough oxygen. Tony Opedisano, who stood by Sinatra during his final moments, described the cardiac event's severity. When I walked into the triage unit, he was having a major heart episode, Opedisano recalled. The core team, including his 2 personal physicians and many technicians, surrounded the singer as they tried to stabilize him. Opedisano held his hand to keep him calm while the medical team worked frantically. Barbara Sinatra arrived soon after and urged her husband to keep fighting. The heart damage proved too extensive for any recovery. The 82-year-old entertainer had trouble breathing and speaking in those last moments. Autopsy's account in the documentary, To Be Frank, reveals Sinatra's final words as he looked up at his wife and friend, "I'm losing." Heart attacks sometimes let people survive with quick medical help. But Sinatra's case got complicated by his age and his decade-long coronary artery disease. His body had nowhere near the resilience to handle such a major medical crisis, since his health had declined substantially over the last several years. The autopsy findings confirmed what Sinatra's inner circle had feared. The chairman of the board, despite his larger-than-life persona and seemingly unbreakable spirit, died from a condition that affects millions of Americans each year. Sinatra's health declined rapidly in final years. The legendary singer's final chapter revealed a series of health complications that dimmed his once powerful presence. His body started a steep decline several years before his fatal heart attack, which worried the people closest to him. Battles with bladder cancer and dementia. The 1980s brought Sinatra an increasingly tough battle against bladder cancer. Doctors diagnosed him in 1987, and he went through surgery to remove the malignancy. Notwithstanding that the cancer came back and needed more treatment, each passing year made his once strong frame noticeably weaker. His physical problems came with cognitive decline. His inner circle noticed signs of dementia by 1994. His longtime friend Tony Appadisano said he would occasionally forget lyrics to songs he had been singing for decades. These memory lapses frustrated the perfectionist performer who took pride in flawless delivery. Cancer treatments and advancing dementia created a cruel situation for someone whose identity connected deeply with artistic control and precision. Barbara, his wife, worked hard to protect his dignity. She limited his public appearances and managed his schedule carefully as his health declined. Multiple hospitalizations before death. Sinatra faced many health emergencies that needed urgent medical care between 1996 and 1998. Doctors at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center treated him for what they called a pinched nerve in November 1996. The 8-day hospital stay revealed more serious mechanisms, but Sinatra wanted to go home against medical advice. Another crisis hit in January 1997 when he rushed to the hospital with pneumonia and congestive heart failure. His medical records showed fluid-filled lungs, a problem that kept coming back. Recovery became harder each time. His doctors worried most about his weakening heart function. His cardiologist saw how years of high blood pressure had damaged his heart. Blood pressure stayed dangerously high, even with medication. The doctors warned this could trigger a major cardiac event any moment. Early 1998 saw him in and out of hospitals so often that he barely spent a few weeks at home between emergencies. He needed extra oxygen as his circulation got worse. Still, he refused to stay in long-term care facilities, choosing to remain in his Beverly Hills home. Frank Sinatra's last days at home. Private nurses and Barbara watched over Sinatra during his final weeks in his Beverly Hills mansion. Short walks left him breathless, which limited his daily activities severely. An oxygen tank stayed by his side, though he often didn't want to use it. His weakened state didn't stop certain habits. He dressed properly each morning, usually in his signature suit and tie, even without visitors. This small act meant a lot to a man known for elegant presentation. Food became a challenge as he lost his appetite. Barbara made sure to have his favorite Italian dishes ready, but he ate just a few bites. His famous love for Jack Daniel's whiskey reduced to occasional small sips, usually against what doctors said. Clear moments found him listening to his own recordings and music from Tony Bennett and Ella Fitzgerald. Music gave him the strongest connection to who he was, even as other abilities faded. Barbara remembered how he found special comfort in his album, September of My Years, during his final week. He often asked for specific tracks about mortality and life's journey. The night of May 14, 1998, brought chest pains while he watched TV in his bedroom. The voice that engaged audiences for decades fell silent at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center later that night. Years of declining health had finally stilled one of music's most distinctive voices. Final collapse occurred during Seinfeld finale. A strange twist of fate connected Frank Sinatra's last medical emergency to one of TV's most watched events ever. The legendary singer's final trip to the hospital happened during a cultural phenomenon that played an unexpected part in his last hours. Ambulance rushed due to empty streets. The evening of May 14, 1998, changed everything. Frank Sinatra had a massive heart attack at his Beverly Hills home, while millions of Americans watched the series finale of Seinfeld. The emergency call about Sinatra's collapse came at 9:14 p.m. The streets were eerily quiet when first responders reached his house just 4 minutes later. Fire Chief Mike Smolin later explained the situation. There wasn't much traffic, he said, noting that Beverly Hills residents stayed home to watch the highly anticipated end of the popular sitcom. This timing proved vital for Sinatra's transport. The ambulance carrying the ailing legend reached Cedars-Sinai Medical Center around 9:35 p.m., just 21 minutes after the emergency call. Los Angeles traffic would normally make such quick transport impossible. Life took an ironic turn that night. While 76.5 million viewers watched Seinfeld's fictional characters face their final moments on screen, America's most celebrated singer faced his actual final moments off screen. The West Coast airing of the Seinfeld finale happened right as the ambulance raced to help Sinatra. Barbara notified, but children were not. Sinatra's wife, Barbara, learned about his collapse right away. She was having dinner with friends at a nearby restaurant when she got the urgent call about her husband's condition. She rushed to the hospital immediately. Barbara managed to keep by her husband's side during this critical time, but made a controversial choice not to tell Sinatra's children about the emergency. She called his manager, Tony Opedisano, instead, who quickly went to Cedars-Sinai to be with Sinatra in his final moments. This choice created family tension later. Barbara kept information about Sinatra's condition within a small circle. She might have wanted to protect the family from worry if he recovered or keep privacy during this vulnerable time. The scene created a striking contrast. Millions watched a fictional goodbye on TV, while only a handful of people knew about Sinatra's real goodbye. News of Sinatra's condition would have created a very different media event if it had spread during the Seinfeld broadcast. Frank Sinatra, Death Cause Timeline. Frank Sinatra's final hours show how quick his decline was. He started showing symptoms of what doctors later confirmed as a massive heart attack around 8:50 p.m. at his Beverly Hills home. His condition got worse by 9:14 p.m., leading to the emergency call. The four-person fire engine company arrived at 9:18 p.m. They found Sinatra struggling severely from what ended up being acute myocardial infarction caused by his long-standing coronary artery disease. Paramedics worked fast and got Sinatra to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center by 9:35 p.m. Medical staff tried to stabilize him for the next hour and 15 minutes. Doctors fought to save the legendary entertainer, while the Seinfeld finale still aired across America. TV Land even paused its regular shows to honor the sitcom's end. Frank Sinatra died at 10:50 p.m. A heart attack from coronary artery disease took one of the 20th century's most influential entertainers. Empty streets caused by a TV phenomenon created an unusual footnote in entertainment history. Sinatra knew how to command attention throughout his career. Yet, in his final crisis, he benefited from everyone watching something else. Sinatra's last words echoed resignation. The last words of America's greatest crooner tell us a lot about his state of mind in his final moments. Frank Sinatra lay in a hospital room at Cedars-Sinai as his life slipped away. His last spoken words gave us a glimpse into his understanding of what was happening. Reported final words, "I'm losing." Frank Sinatra's last words, "I'm losing," showed a raw acceptance of death from someone who had dominated the entertainment world for decades. He spoke these words with difficulty as medical staff worked around him. The words stood in sharp contrast to the powerful presence he had managed to keep throughout his legendary career. Tony Opedisano held Sinatra's hand during these last moments. He noticed the singer's eyes looked unusually alert despite his physical condition. Though Sinatra struggled to breathe, he looked first at his wife Barbara and then at Opedisano before speaking those final two words. Medical staff continued their work after he spoke, but Sinatra never woke up again. His statement proved true. He was losing his fight against the heart attack that took his life about 40 minutes later. Barbara Sinatra heard these words and urged her husband to keep going. "Not yet, Frank," she whispered as she squeezed his hand. His heart damage was too severe to recover from, especially given his age and many health problems. Sinatra's simple final phrase carried extra meaning from someone known for his way with words. His career celebrated his precise pronunciation and emotional delivery. He wasn't just a singer, but brought the American songbook to life. His last words stayed true to his style of saying exactly what was needed. Tony Opedisano's account of final moments. Tony Opedisano knew Sinatra well in his later years and gives us the clearest picture of the singer's final moments. He arrived at Cedars-Sinai right after the ambulance brought Sinatra to the emergency room. "When I walked into the triage unit, he was having a major heart episode," Opedisano said later. "There were doctors and nurses everywhere. His two personal physicians were already there." He described a scene of controlled chaos. Medical professionals worked quickly but carefully while monitors beeped and showed Sinatra's vital signs getting worse. Opedisano moved next to Sinatra and took his hand to comfort him with a familiar face. Sinatra made eye contact with Opedisano, despite the oxygen mask covering most of his face. He seemed to know his friend right away, and his eyes showed a moment of clarity through his pain. Barbara Sinatra rushed in soon after someone called her from dinner. She saw her husband's condition and joined Opedisano at the bedside. Sinatra appeared to get stronger for a moment. His breathing steadied, and he focused on their faces. During this brief moment of awareness, Sinatra spoke his last words. He looked at his wife first, then at Opedisano, and found the strength to say clearly, "I'm losing." Speaking seemed to use up all his remaining energy. Opedisano said Sinatra closed his eyes after that and never woke up again. The medical team worked for about 40 more minutes before they pronounced him dead at 10:50 p.m. The story shows how Sinatra, a man who had controlled so much of his life and career, knew and spoke about losing that control in his final conscious moments. Family was not informed until after his death. A heart-wrenching family drama played out after Frank Sinatra's death. His children found that they had been shut out of their father's final moments. The way his adult children learned about his passing created deep wounds and bitter divisions in the Sinatra family. Tina and Nancy's emotional reaction at exactly 11:10 p.m. on May 14, 1998, 20 minutes after doctors pronounced Frank Sinatra dead, his daughter, Tina, got the devastating call from Dr. Rex Kennemer. "I have bad news, we lost him," the doctor said. Tina's bewildered response, "Lost who?" showed how unexpected the news was. Tina called her sister Nancy right away, and they rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. A heartbreaking scene awaited them at the hospital. Tina later described it. "My father lay facing us, eyes closed, hands over his chest. He lay on a lowered gurney, ready to be wheeled away. Barbara was seated in a chair to his left. Their stepmother didn't acknowledge them as they entered." Tina dropped to her knees beside her father's body, overwhelmed with grief. "Oh, Papa," she whispered through her tears. She touched him and noticed his body was still warm, so warm that she thought for a moment she felt him move. The realization that they had missed saying goodbye by just minutes made their pain even worse. Nancy showed her grief differently. She later spoke about Barbara. "She was cruel, absolutely cruel. She did not tell us he was dying. We did not know until after he was dead, and we were 5 minutes from the hospital." Barbara Sinatra's choice to keep Sinatra's children in the dark about his condition, sparked a family controversy that continues today. Doctors fought for about 80 minutes to save Sinatra's life, but Barbara never reached out to his children. Barbara was out having dinner when staff rushed Sinatra to the hospital around 9 p.m. The hospital contacted her right away, but she told them not to inform Sinatra's children. Nancy's words show how deeply this hurt the family. "I said to myself that night, I will never speak to her again. And I haven't. Not a word." This broken relationship lasted beyond words. Sinatra's daughters skipped Barbara's funeral services in 2017 after years of bad blood. Tina Sinatra spoke about this exclusion in her 2000 memoir, My Father's Daughter. "Barbara could have called us. She could have called. But she did not call. She saw her father's last marriage as a Faustian bargain and worried that Barbara was trying to erase Sinatra's children from his life." What did Frank Sinatra die of? Medical professionals weren't surprised by Frank Sinatra's official cause of death, acute myocardial infarction or heart attack. His children arrived after everything had ended, leaving them with questions about their father's final moments. Tina and Nancy learned about their father's death through doctors' explanations instead of being there with him. This detached way of finding out added to their heartbreak. The medical details of Frank Sinatra's last moments brought little comfort to children who missed their chance to say goodbye. Learning that their father's last words, "I'm losing," went to others made them feel even more left out of this crucial family moment. Frank Sinatra's death created immediate pain and long-lasting family rifts that affected everything from funeral plans to estate management. These tensions showed up years later when someone damaged Sinatra's grave marker by trying to chisel away the word husband. A new marker replaced the damaged one with the words "Sleep warm, Papa," the same message Tina had buried with her father. Funeral reflected Sinatra's iconic life. The grandeur of Frank Sinatra's career matched his final send-off. His funeral service at Beverly Hills on May 17, 1998, became a solemn celebration of his legacy. Family tensions simmered beneath the surface as stars gathered to bid farewell to the chairman of the board. Songs played during service. Sinatra's voice echoed through Good Shepherd Catholic Church in Beverly Hills as mourners gathered. Put your dreams away, open the service. The same signature closing song from his radio show years ago. The emotional weight grew heavier when One More for My Baby and One More for the Road played. America's most iconic vocalist deserved nothing less. My Way served as the recessional song, a perfect choice that captured his unique approach to both art and life. Items placed in casket. The Sinatra family followed their traditions as they prepared for the final goodbye. Tina Sinatra placed a small bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey, her father's favorite drink, next to him. She added a pack of Camel cigarettes, a Zippo lighter, and a roll of dimes. The dimes held a deeper meaning. Sinatra carried them ever since his son's kidnapping in 1963. He wanted to make sure he had coins ready for emergency phone calls. A note reading "Sleep Warm Papa" ended up replacing his original gravestone inscription. Celebrity attendees and eulogies. Hollywood royalty mixed with political power brokers. At the funeral, showing Sinatra's reach across different worlds. Kirk Douglas, Gregory Peck, and Tony Bennett joined Tony Curtis and Jack Nicholson in the pews. Former First Lady Nancy Reagan represented Sinatra's political connections. Gregory Peck's heartfelt eulogy described his friend as a giant of the entertainment world whose death leaves an empty space that can never be filled. Kirk Douglas spoke about Sinatra's charitable side, how he entertained troops and supported children's causes. Tony Bennett's tribute stood out. Frank Sinatra was the kind of artist who comes along once in a lifetime, actually once. Gravestone was later vandalized and replaced. Family tensions at Frank Sinatra's final resting place demonstrated themselves physically years after his death. The legendary singer's gravesite became the center of an unusual controversy that ended up changing his memorial marker completely. Original inscription: "The best is yet to come." Desert Memorial Park in Cathedral City, California, became Sinatra's final resting place after his death in 1998. His original gravestone carried a meaningful inscription, "The best is yet to come," above his name, while "Beloved Husband and Father" appeared below. The inscription held special meaning because "the best is yet to come" wasn't just a common phrase. It was his 1964 song title. The marker stood as a symbol of Sinatra's lasting legacy for more than 20 years. The stone faced an unexpected act of vandalism during Thanksgiving weekend in 2020. Someone used what appeared to be a hammer to chip away just one word on the memorial "husband." This strange and specific damage raised many questions. The authorities never caught the person responsible for this targeted act. The incident sparked speculation about possible links to ongoing family tensions, especially given Sinatra's marriage to Barbara and the discord it created. New gravestone reads, "Sleep Warm Papa." The cemetery management had to replace the damaged marker completely since repairs weren't possible. The new gravestone came with a surprising change. Both "The best is yet to come" and "Beloved Husband and Father" disappeared. A simple phrase, "Sleep Warm Papa," now marks Sinatra's grave instead. The new inscription carries deep family meaning. Tina Sinatra had written these exact words on a note she tucked into her father's pocket at his funeral. The updated gravestone now highlights Sinatra's role as a father rather than a husband. This dramatic change to Sinatra's memorial adds another layer to the complex family story that continued well beyond his death from heart failure in 1998. Experts link Sinatra's death to lifestyle and mental health. Beyond the clinical diagnosis of a heart attack, medical experts and biographers have long connected Frank Sinatra's death to the cumulative toll of his legendary hard-living lifestyle and underlying mental health struggles. His notorious consumption of Camel cigarettes and Jack Daniel's whiskey, combined with a high-stress career and volatile temper, undoubtedly contributed to the hypertension and coronary artery disease that ultimately killed him. Sinatra's well-documented battles with what many now believe was undiagnosed bipolar disorder also played a significant role. His dramatic mood swings from euphoric highs to deep depressive lows often led to periods of intense anxiety and self-destructive behavior. This emotional turmoil placed immense strain on his cardiovascular system over the decades. While Sinatra projected an image of unbreakable confidence, his inner world was often one of profound loneliness and agitation. In the end, Old Blue Eyes was not felled by a single event, but by a lifetime of pushing his physical and emotional limits. The autopsy report may have detailed the mechanics of his death, but the full story is written in the decades of smoke-filled rooms, sleepless nights, and the relentless pressure of being Frank Sinatra.